Welcome to Sleepless Dark Theories, a place for curious minds who wander in the quiet hours when the world sleeps and the questions begin. Before we drift into tonight's mystery, I'm intrigued to know, where in the world are you watching from? What time is it where you are right now? Drop it in the comments. You're not alone in this darkness. There's a whole world of night thinkers out there, all searching for the same answers. Let's explore them together. Before we begin, take a breath and dim the noise. If you find comfort in the quiet spaces between the facts, tap like. And if you're ready to follow the shadows wherever they lead, subscribe and join the silent investigation. Now, let's begin. Tonight, we sink into the legend of Atlantis, a civilization said to be far more advanced than history dares to admit. Some say it was real, others say it's myth. But the truth might be hiding in plain sight, beneath the waves, buried in symbols, lost to time. Plato's Atlantis, a tale of hubris and destruction. Could remnants of Atlantis be hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone to uncover them? For centuries, explorers, scholars, and conspiracy theorists have scoured the globe in hopes of finding the elusive lost city. What keeps this mystery alive isn't just Plato's vivid description, but the fact that so many places around the world seem to echo fragments of his story. From volcanic islands in the Mediterranean to icy terrains in Antarctica, the search for Atlantis has led to theories as diverse as the civilizations that first told its tale. One of the most prominent theories ties the story of Atlantis to the Minoan civilization on the island of Santorini, also known as Thera. Santorini was devastated by a massive volcanic eruption around 1600 BCE, an event so catastrophic it changed the geography of the region and likely disrupted the advanced Minoan culture. The Minoans were known for their architectural prowess and thriving trade networks, traits that sound strikingly similar to Atlantis's own attributes as described by Plato. The eruption caused parts of the island to sink, which some believe might be the inspiration for Atlantis's sudden disappearance into the sea. The layout of the island, with its volcanic caldera surrounded by water, even mirrors Plato's description of concentric rings dividing the city. While Santorini is one of the more plausible contenders, the hunt has taken researchers far beyond Greece. Another theory points to the Azores, a group of islands in the mid-Atlantic. Sitting along the mid-Atlantic ridge, the Azores are above underwater mountains, and some speculate the region could have been the remnants of a much larger landmass that sank. Proponents of this theory argue that earlier civilizations may have lived there when sea levels were lower, creating myths that eventually evolved into Plato's tale. While evidence is scarce, geological patterns in the area continue to intrigue researchers who wonder if part of Atlantis might have been consumed by the shifting tides. Then there's Sunderland, a submerged landmass in Southeast Asia, now beneath the Java Sea. This theory connects Atlantis to an entirely different part of the world. According to some interpretations, ancient flood myths from cultures in the region, including in Indonesia and the Pacific Islands, parallel Plato's description of a great flood wiping out a powerful civilization. Sunderland would have been above sea level tens of thousands of years ago, making it possible that thriving communities once existed in this now hidden landscape. This idea broadens the scope of the Atlantis mystery. suggesting it could represent an early advanced civilization, not confined to the Mediterranean, but spanning a larger global narrative. Alongside these potential locations, the Richash structure in the Sahara Desert has gained attention in recent years. Also called the Eye of the Sahara, this naturally occurring geologic formation is a circular feature resembling the concentric rings mentioned in Plato's account. Supporters of this theory highlight how shifting climates could have transformed what is now a desert into a once thriving, water-rich area. While skeptics dismiss its geological origin as unrelated to Atlantis, its striking similarity to the layout described by Plato keeps the idea alive, especially among amateur researchers who see connections where professional archaeologists might not. Let's not forget about Antarctica. This theory suggests that Atlantis could have existed on a temperate, ice-free version of the continent before a sudden shift in Earth's crust displaced it to its current frozen location. The Piri Race Map, an ancient chart believed to show parts of Antarctica without ice, bolsters the claims of those who believe in this hypothesis. The map's accuracy regarding coastlines that should have been unknown to its makers raises questions about whether it preserves knowledge from a lost and technologically advanced civilization. The idea of Atlantis frozen beneath miles of ice is far-fetched to many, but captivating nonetheless, especially in light of the mystery surrounding Antarctica's unexplored depths. The problem with these theories, fascinating as they are, is the glaring lack of consensus. Geological evidence supporting one theory often stonewalls another, leaving researchers without a unified answer. For example, the volcanic upheaval at Santorini fits Plato's description of sudden destruction, but the timeline doesn't line up with the era he described. Likewise, while the Azores fit geographically in the Atlantic, where he placed Atlantis beyond the Pillars of Heracles, there's little archaeological evidence to suggest human settlement of that magnitude existed there. Each location seems to reveal one piece of the puzzle, but lacks the completeness needed to definitively claim the title of Atlantis. What's consistent, however, is the presence of flood myths across nearly every ancient culture in human history. From the biblical story of Noah's Ark to the Sumerian tale of Utnapishtim and the Great Flood in Hindu epics, the idea of a massive deluge submerging a civilization is nearly universal. It's possible these stories all share the same root, a distant memory of a global disaster that swept away lands and forever altered the lives of ancient peoples. Atlantis, then, could be another version of this collective memory. If that's the case, perhaps it's not one place at all, but a symbol of a broader human experience with catastrophe and renewal. This breadth of possibilities is precisely what makes the search for Atlantis so compelling. Each theory has its unique allure, linked by tantalizing clues that often seem too coincidental to be dismissed. Geologic remnants, ancient maps, oral traditions, they all point toward a forgotten past where a thriving civilization may have once existed, only to vanish under unfathomable circumstances. Could Atlantis have been extraordinarily advanced, more so than any contemporaries? Or is it simply a tale amplified by centuries of speculation? Maybe both. Sifting through these theories, a thought begins to emerge. What if it's not about finding Atlantis as Plato described it, but about piecing together the traces of an advanced, interconnected prehistoric world? The locations theorized to be Atlantis all share a certain theme. They were places teeming with life that faced immense change, either through natural disasters or creeping erosion over millennia. Whether it was the volcanic blasts of Santorini, rising sea levels that submerged Sunderland, or tectonic activity that altered the mid-Atlantic, each potential site holds pieces of a larger story about human resilience and adaptation. This isn't just about geography, it's about what such places represent. Atlantis, if it existed, wouldn't just have been built on physical foundations. It would have been constructed on cultural achievements, sophisticated technologies, and a keen understanding of the natural world. If these traces can be found, they might tell us more than just the location of one fabled city. They could offer a glimpse into how ancient people lived, thrived, and faced the forces of nature that shaped the world we know today. And here's where the mystery deepens. What if all these theories, Santorini, the Azores, Antarctica, Sunderland, are pointing to the same truth? One that's buried under layers not just of soil and water, but also of human history. Perhaps the fascination with Atlantis isn't just about discovering ruins or validating a mythical tale. It's about recovering a story that was lost, a story that reminds us of how closely tied we are to the places we call home and how fragile those connections can be. Each excavation, each new hypothesis, brings us closer to an idea more significant than a single city or culture. The search for Atlantis isn't just about solving a mystery. It's about reaching back into the origins of who we are, where we came from, and how humanity learned to translate its knowledge into the civilizations we see today. So while the physical Atlantis may remain elusive, the idea of Atlantis continues to inspire an enduring quest, the kind that asks us not just to look for answers, but to dream of possibilities. Where does this leave us? The questions remain unresolved, but one thing is clear. The journey to uncover Atlantis is about much more than locating a lost island. It's a pursuit that brings us closer to understanding what it means to be human, to create, to strive, even to fail, and to leave behind traces for those who come after. And perhaps those traces go deeper than geography. Maybe the true treasure of Atlantis lies in the knowledge and power it has always represented, still hidden, waiting to be unearthed. Could Antarctica have once been a thriving, temperate landmass, home to an advanced civilization now buried beneath miles of ice? It might seem far-fetched at first, but some theories suggest the icy continent wasn't always the frozen wasteland we know today. Instead, there's an idea that its transformation was sudden, dramatic, and cataclysmic, possibly tied to Earth's shifting crust. And here's where Atlantis enters the conversation. If the continent truly was ice-free in a distant past, could the remains of a civilization as advanced as Plato's Atlantis still be frozen beneath, locked away from human eyes? The Antarctica-Atlantis theory has gained a devoted following over the years, thanks in part to the groundbreaking and often controversial work of Charles Hapgood. Hapgood proposed what is known as the Earth crust displacement theory. Unlike plate tectonics, this idea assumes that the outer layers of the Earth can shift together as a single piece, almost like the skin of a fruit sliding loosely over its core. According to Hapgood's hypothesis, such a shift could displace entire continents, dramatically altering climates in the process. If true, this means that Antarctica might not always have been locked in its icy prison. Instead, it could have once existed closer to a temperate zone capable of supporting life, and possibly a sophisticated human culture. For some, this theory fits neatly into Plato's account of Atlantis, a sudden cataclysm, a complete transformation of the land, and the erasure of nearly all physical evidence. Earth crust displacement provides a framework for how such a disaster could occur. Hapgood's ideas also open the door for something else, the possibility that a thriving civilization, one perhaps advanced beyond anything we imagine for its time, could have been lost in the chaos, leaving behind only whispers of its existence. Adding to the intrigue is the Piri Reis map, a 16th century chart created by an Ottoman admiral and cartographer. The map is famous, or infamous depending on one's perspective, for allegedly depicting Antarctica's coastline centuries before the continent was officially discovered. What's even more striking is that the map appears to show this coastline without ice, a condition Antarctica hasn't seen for tens of thousands of years. To those who support the Antarctica-Atlantis theory, this map is a crucial puzzle piece. If accurate, it could suggest that knowledge of Antarctica predates modern civilization, passed down from an unknown source, possibly the Atlanteans themselves. But can a single map really be so groundbreaking? For skeptics, the answer is a firm no. Critics argue that the apparent outline of Antarctica on the Piri Reis map could simply be an interpretation error. They suggest that the cartographer may have unintentionally depicted South America or other nearby regions, incorporating distortions common to early mapmaking. To them, this is less about ancient advanced civilizations and more about the imperfections of human observation and the mysteries of medieval geography. Even among scientists, the map provokes a mix of skepticism and fascination. It's true that the coastline of Antarctica wouldn't have been exposed for tens or even hundreds of millennia, raising questions about how such a feature could appear on a 16th century map. But without definitive proof of its origins, or confirmation that it represents Antarctica at all, the controversy surrounding the map persists. Supporters of the theory believe the map's details are too precise to dismiss entirely, while critics maintain that the evidence simply isn't strong enough to rewrite history. Beyond the map, the idea of a temperate, livable Antarctica also leans on geological evidence that suggests the continent's climate wasn't always so harsh. Scientists now know that millions of years ago, Antarctica was, in fact, a green and fertile land. Fossils of ancient forests and pollen samples buried deep under the ice confirm that warm conditions once allowed life to thrive there. However, this timeline exists far outside the realm of human history, dating back long before even the earliest civilizations developed. Proponents of the Atlantis theory suggest that Hapgood's Earth crust displacement hypothesis might fill this gap, shortening the geological timeline and creating an opening where a human civilization might fit. Of course, this is where the controversy intensifies. The scientific community largely rejects the idea of Earth crust displacement in favor of plate tectonics, a more widely supported and rigorously tested explanation for how continents move. Critics point out that Hapgood's theory lacks the kind of hard physical evidence required to validate such a dramatic scenario. Still, Hapgood's work continues to spark curiosity, especially among those who believe modern science might overlook unconventional approaches to understanding Earth's history. The persistent skepticism surrounding it all raises an even bigger question. Why are these ideas dismissed so quickly? Is it simply because they fall outside mainstream scientific thought? Or could it be, as some conspiracy theorists claim, that certain knowledge about Antarctica and Atlantis has been deliberately suppressed? To those who believe in hidden agendas, the lack of official recognition for these theories isn't due to a lack of evidence. Instead, they argue it's part of a broader attempt to keep the truth buried, much like the icy ruins of the supposed civilization itself. Such theories tie directly into the idea of forbidden knowledge, secrets deemed too radical, too dangerous, or too disruptive to reveal. If evidence of an advanced civilization, especially one predating all known human history, were discovered under Antarctica, it could fundamentally alter our understanding of human development. It would challenge not only history books and archaeology, but also long-held beliefs about the origins of civilization itself. And that kind of upheaval, some suggest, isn't something the powers that be would welcome. Still, despite the lack of hard proof, the Antarctica-Atlantis theory refuses to melt away. Its supporters point to the continent's impenetrable nature as both a physical and symbolic barrier. Antarctica is shrouded in mystery, its vast, frozen expanse largely unexplored and difficult to access. Its icy silence feels like an intentional hiding place, a perfect vault for secrets too deep or too dangerous to uncover. And while the science may not yet support the notion of a lost civilization buried there, the mystery fuels imaginations in ways few other places on Earth can. To entertain this theory is to entertain a tantalizing possibility that beneath Antarctica's miles of ice lie ruins so ancient and advanced that they could rewrite history. Whether they belong to Atlantis or some civilization that inspired the legend makes little difference to those who hold on to the belief. Just imagining the scale of what such a discovery could uncover, ancient technologies, monuments, maps of a world we scarcely recognize, is enough to keep the idea alive. It's not hard to see why people remain so captivated by the thought. And yet, the questions linger. Could the Piri Reis map really be a relic of a forgotten era? Is there any truth to Hapgood's idea of an Earth crust shift that moved entire continents and destroyed civilizations? Or are these just stories, projections of our own desire to find order and meaning in history's blank spaces? While science leans heavily towards skepticism, the allure of the unknown keeps the door to these theories wedged ever so slightly open. What's undeniable is the symbolism of Antarctica itself. Its isolation, its harshness, and its seeming inaccessibility all lend themselves to the idea of something hidden, waiting. The continent feels secretive by its very nature, a place few have seen and even fewer have studied in any real depth. Whether or not Atlantis lies beneath its ice, Antarctica challenges our understanding of the planet's past in profound ways. It reminds us of the gaps in our knowledge, the moments in history that remain undescribed. Perhaps what's most intriguing about the Antarctica-Atlantis theory is how it blends science, speculation, and the human drive to uncover mysteries. While it may face an uphill battle against mainstream criticism, it continues to ignite curiosity, asking us to question how much we really know about the distant past. Whether the icy continent holds evidence of Atlantis, or simply more questions, it remains a place wrapped in wonder. And so, for now, Antarctica remains silent. But that very silence begs to be broken. urging both skeptics and believers to keep digging, whether beneath miles of ice or within our imaginations. As we move forward, the idea of what's hidden below is impossible to ignore, because in some ways, the secrets of Antarctica aren't just about the past. They're a reflection of how far we're willing to go to uncover the truth. Did the Atlanteans unlock the secrets of technology so advanced it still feels out of reach today? It's one of the most tantalizing pieces of the Atlantis puzzle. Plato described Atlantis as a place of extraordinary engineering and innovation, and over the centuries, this part of the story has taken on a life of its own. According to some theories, the Atlanteans weren't just an advanced society, they were a civilization that had mastered systems of energy, transportation, medicine, and even flight in ways we can barely comprehend. If true, their technological prowess wouldn't just make them exceptional, it might make the rediscovery of their knowledge a paradigm shift for humanity. But how could such advanced technology have existed so long ago, and why did it vanish so completely? The answers, some claim, lie in theories that stretch the very edges of imagination. One of the most enduring ideas revolves around energy. Tales of Atlantis often mention the use of massive crystals as a power source for the city. These aren't ordinary gemstones, though. They're said to have functioned as conduits for limitless energy, capable of fueling everything from large-scale machinery to personal transportation. Some versions describe crystals that harvested their energy from the Earth's natural vibrations, possibly through something akin to resonance or magnetism. To make it even more intriguing, this concept aligns loosely with emerging theories in modern physics about zero-point energy, a hypothetical form of unlimited energy that exists within the quantum field. If the Atlanteans truly tapped into such a system, it would explain how they could achieve feats that seem impossible by today's standards. These so-called energy crystals are central to the theory, not just as a source of power, but as a symbol of the technological gap between their civilization and our own. Imagine an entire city illuminated without wires or conventional electricity, streets humming with vehicles powered not by combustion, but by invisible forces harnessed from the planet itself. The potential applications go far beyond energy, stretching into medicine, agriculture, and architecture. Supporters of this theory claim that whatever knowledge the Atlanteans had in this area, it was revolutionary, so much so that its sudden loss would have been devastating not just for them, but for the trajectory of human progress as a whole. If this technology were rediscovered today, it could disrupt industries built around fossil fuels and traditional energy grids, upending global power structures in ways that are hard to predict. But energy wasn't the only realm where Atlantis supposedly excelled. Theories about Atlantean technology often include incredible advancements in engineering and flight. Some narratives describe flying airships or vehicles capable of moving not just through the skies, but even across dimensions or between planets. While this sounds more like science fiction than history, there are strong parallels between these descriptions and myths from other ancient civilizations. For example, Hindu epics like the Mahabharata reference Vimanas, flying chariots said to travel vast distances, possibly even powered by energy systems similar to what Atlantean legends suggest. Even ancient Egypt has myths of advanced tools and technologies that seem eerily similar to these stories. Consider the construction of the pyramids, a feat so monumental that theories still swirl about how it was achieved. Some speculate that techniques used to construct megalithic structures like this, which require precision and strength far beyond the known capabilities of their time, may have drawn from lost Atlantean knowledge. And it's not just Egypt. Megalithic sites all over the world, from South America to Asia, seem to carry markers of unexplained engineering. Could all of these cultures have been influenced by a shared, more advanced origin, perhaps tied to Atlantis? Medicine is another area where theories of Atlantean innovation shine. Atlantis is said to have had advances in healing techniques that surpass the capabilities of even our modern practices. Proponents of this belief often describe Atlanteans as having knowledge of energy-based therapies or natural remedies enhanced through technology. Some suggest they were capable of extending human lifespans, curing diseases, or even manipulating genetic material, abilities that edge uncomfortably close to what our current sciences are just beginning to explore. From a sci-fi perspective, Atlantean medicine reads like a vision of the far future, but in these stories, it's portrayed as a reality long past. And yet, for all these supposed advancements, something strange occurs when you try to trace their legacy in concrete terms. There's nothing there. No machines, no blueprints wrapped in ancient scrolls, no ruins that definitively prove the city's technological sophistication. Everything about Atlantean technology exists in accounts, myths, and coded symbolism. The lack of tangible evidence might seem like a deal-breaker, but to conspiracy theorists, this absence carries its own clues. They argue there are two possibilities here. The technology was irreparably lost when Atlantis disappeared, or, and this is where the intrigue deepens, it's been deliberately hidden. The idea of suppression surrounding Atlantean technology is almost as compelling as the technology itself. Some believe that rediscovering the secrets of Atlantis could unravel global systems of control. After all, a clean, unlimited energy source would collapse industries built on finite resources. Medical breakthroughs from an ancient time could undermine modern pharmaceutical empires. Engineering knowledge that renders modern building methods obsolete would shift economic power into different hands. Supporters of this theory suggest that certain entities, perhaps secret societies or shadowy elites, actively guard against such discoveries. It's a provocative thought. What if this ancient knowledge hasn't been lost, but hoarded? Think of how rare it is for archaeological findings or historical revelations to stray too far from accepted narratives. Theories claim that moments when we get close to something game-changing, like suppressed ancient texts or artifacts, tend to be quietly brushed under the rug. Of course, these are just theories, but the pattern they suggest has raised questions about whether Atlantean technology poses not just a historical mystery, but a contemporary threat to existing power dynamics. Even if suppression on that scale isn't deliberate, there's still a sense that Atlantean technology, if it existed at all, is beyond what most civilizations could handle or control. Perhaps that's why it vanished so completely after Atlantis fell. Plato's story suggests that part of the Atlanteans' failure wasn't just their moral corruption, but their overreach, their arrogance in playing with forces they couldn't ultimately contain. It's a theme that resonates across time. Could the Atlanteans have destroyed themselves with the very advancements that made them great? That's one interpretation, and it doesn't seem so hard to imagine. After all, Human history is no stranger to examples of technology outpacing ethical judgments. But for every theory about destruction, there's an undercurrent of hope. What if the story of Atlantean technology isn't just a cautionary tale, but an invitation, an encouragement to explore, experiment, and reconsider what might be possible if only we looked at the world differently? For those who believe in these advanced systems, the idea of rediscovery carries with it not just warnings, but opportunities. An Atlantean energy source could lead to a cleaner and more harmonious world. Reclaimed knowledge might reveal ways to heal not just individuals, but entire ecosystems. The potential becomes as enticing as the mystery itself. These possibilities are why the idea of Atlantean technology remains alive in the modern imagination. It's not just about whether the technology existed, it's about what its existence would mean to us today. Could it teach us something about ourselves, about where we're headed? Or is it a warning to tread carefully as we move further into our own age of innovation? The absence of proof does little to dull these questions. If anything, it sharpens them, making the allure of Atlantis even stronger. The mystery of Atlantean technology seems to balance on this strange, fascinating contradiction. On one hand, it represents a kind of lost ideal, a golden age of human achievement that vanished too soon. On the other, it serves as a cautionary tale, a symbol of hubris and its consequences. Either way, the idea resonates because it asks fundamental questions about humanity's relationship with knowledge, power, and responsibility. Whether suppressed, destroyed, or simply mythical, the technology of Atlantis continues to spark the imagination. All of this leads us to a curious place. If Atlantean technology were to resurface, if we were to uncover undeniable proof of their advancements, it's not just history books that would change. The ripple effects could touch every part of modern life, forcing a reassessment of how we see our past, our capabilities, and our future. But until that day comes, the Atlanteans remain frozen in the stories we tell. An ancient civilization standing forever at the crossroads of science, fantasy, and belief. Whatever secrets they held, there's no denying the enduring power of their legend. Could the secrets of Atlantis be guarded by powerful groups orchestrating history from the shadows? It's a question that has fueled endless speculation, particularly among those who believe that Atlantis wasn't just a lost civilization, but one whose wisdom and technology built the frameworks of power that exist today. Groups like the Freemasons and the Illuminati often find themselves at the center of such theories, with many suggesting these organizations are the gatekeepers of Atlantean knowledge, controlling its revelation for their own advantage, or keeping it hidden entirely for reasons yet unknown. The idea of secret societies holding the keys to Atlantean wisdom begins with symbolism and ritual. The Freemasons, one of the most prominent organizations often linked to conspiracy theories, are said to encode esoteric knowledge within their practices. Some believe these symbols, from the compass and square to the all-seeing eye, reflect not only ancient truths, but direct ties to Atlantis itself. Proponents of this theory suggest that Atlantean teachings may have survived the city's destruction through chosen individuals, passed down in fragments, and preserved within secretive groups like the Freemasons. They argue that what appears to be geometric precision in Masonic imagery could be remnants of Atlantean science. Knowledge of energy systems, cosmic alignments, and architecture that once powered a civilization far ahead of its time. The Illuminati, though less historically tied to tangible organizations than the Freemasons, plays an equally provocative role in these theories. Often depicted as a powerful hidden hand behind global events, the Illuminati is imagined by conspiracy theorists to have roots stretching back to Atlantis, or, alternatively, to consist of individuals descended from Atlanteans themselves. This idea rests on the belief that the Atlanteans were not only technologically equipped, but also intellectually and physically superior, a society whose elite bloodlines may have survived the catastrophic end of their homeland. Allegedly, the Illuminati uses this inherited knowledge and genetic lineage to influence the world stage, manipulating events behind the veil of secrecy. But why would such groups go to such lengths to bury the truth about Atlantis? Claims abound that powerful elites suppress information about the lost civilization to maintain global control. One argument hinges on technological suppression. As the theory goes, Atlantis may have harbored knowledge of a sustainable energy source, perhaps even a method that bypasses current industrial technologies completely. Uncovering this kind of knowledge, conspiracists suggest, could topple fossil fuel industries, undermine corporate and national economies, and thus destabilize existing power structures. The potential discovery of advanced Atlantean technology, such as a sustainable energy source, could disrupt industries reliant on fossil fuels, reads one assertion on the subject. And with disruption comes the threat of losing power. The Illuminati, though less historically tied to tangible organizations than the Freemasons, plays an equally provocative role in these theories. Often depicted as a powerful hidden hand behind global events, the Illuminati is imagined by conspiracy theorists to have roots stretching back to Atlantis, or, alternatively, to consist of individuals descended from Atlanteans themselves. This idea rests on the belief that the Atlanteans were not only technologically equipped, but also intellectually and physically superior, a society whose elite bloodlines may have survived the catastrophic end of their homeland. Allegedly, the Illuminati uses this inherited knowledge and genetic lineage to influence the world stage, manipulating events behind the veil of secrecy. But why would such groups go to such lengths to bury the truth about Atlantis? Claims abound that powerful elites suppress information about the lost civilization to maintain global control. One argument hinges on technological suppression. As the theory goes, Atlantis may have harbored knowledge of a sustainable energy source, perhaps even a method that bypasses current industrial technologies completely. Uncovering this kind of knowledge, conspiracists suggest, could topple fossil fuel industries, undermine corporate and national economies, and thus destabilize existing power structures. The potential discovery of advanced Atlantean technology, such as a sustainable energy source, could disrupt industries reliant on fossil fuels, reads one assertion on the subject. And with disruption comes the threat of losing power. The idea of suppression isn't limited to technology. Some theorists claim that organizations and governments have actively blocked attempts to explore or discuss the reality of Atlantis. History is dotted with accounts of underwater missions losing funding, research disappearing without explanation, and documents mysteriously vanishing, just as significant breakthroughs seemed on the horizon. These details are used as proof of a deliberate effort to keep Atlantis firmly in the realm of myth, despite modern advancements in tools like satellite imagery, underwater drones, and ground-penetrating radar that increasingly reveal what lies beneath Earth's surface. Strangely, instead of answering questions, these new technologies often seem to deepen the mystery, adding weight to the argument that deliberate obfuscation is at play. The connections between modern elites, secret groups, and Atlantean descendants complicate the picture further. Some believe certain powerful families, dynasties that have shaped modern history, are descendants of Atlanteans, carrying physical traits or knowledge passed down through millennia. These supposed survivors of Atlantis, while scattered, are said to operate in cohesion, preserving their power through tightly controlled alliances. By holding this lineage, they maintain access to long-hidden secrets of their ancient past, while subtly steering contemporary society. This claim, while sensational, rests on the premise that Atlanteans once occupied a higher plane of development, not just technologically, but biologically, and that traces of this superiority remain in those who claim to be their successors. The symbols tied to this theory extend far beyond the Freemasons and Illuminati. Across history, certain motifs and recurring patterns appear in art, architecture, and literature, leading some to believe that reminders of Atlantis are hiding in plain sight. The obsessions of major civilizations with sea imagery, Poseidon, tridents, concentric circles, and sunken cities, are often cited as subliminal markers pointing back to this lost culture. Could it be that the knowledge of Atlantis has lingered, cloaked in metaphor and ritual to escape destruction or censorship? Others go one step further, suggesting Atlantis is more than just history. It's a kind of blueprint secretly shaping the future. This idea often overlaps with New World Order theories, where Atlantean ideals, whether technological, political, or cultural, are said to form the foundation of a global agenda. In this context, Atlantis is seen less as a utopia and more as a warning. If the Atlanteans destroyed themselves through unchecked ambition or misuse of their power, what lessons, if any, are hidden in the choices made by those who claim to follow in their footsteps? Does the hidden hand guiding history try to avoid such a fate, or accept it as natural evolution? Rituals and practices of secret societies further fuel this mystery. Many rituals focus on initiation, symbolic death and rebirth, or enlightenment. Concepts echoed in the story of Atlantis and its sudden erasure. The idea that Atlantean wisdom is encoded in such practices suggests that these groups aim not only to preserve knowledge, but to keep it out of the hands of the uninitiated. Knowledge, after all, is power, especially when it comes to energy systems, natural phenomena, or advanced healing, the very gifts Atlantis was said to have perfected. These theories beg an important question. If such powerful clues are encoded in plain view, what exactly is being hidden, and why? Is it simply about control, as the conspiracy suggests? Or could it be more complex, perhaps about humanity's readiness to handle the implications of the past? After all, discovering concrete proof of Atlantis would challenge not just technology and politics, but philosophy, religion, and our understanding of human history. The implications extend far beyond artifacts or ruins. And yet, every layer of this theory seems designed to deepen the intrigue rather than resolve it. Take, for instance, the claim mentioned earlier about underwater expeditions losing funding or evidence disappearing. While skeptics naturally point to mundane explanations, budget cuts, simple mismanagement, the patterns remain curious enough to raise eyebrows. Why do these moments of progress so often seem to hit invisible walls? Is it coincidence or something else entirely? Could these be isolated events, or the careful workings of groups committed to defending deeply rooted secrets? At its core, the idea of secret societies safeguarding the secrets of Atlantis reflects both our fascination with power and our fear of losing it. The thought that unseen forces control what we know and how we know it feels both intimidating and eerily plausible. It taps into a fundamental human question: how much of the world is orchestrated beyond our understanding? And how much do symbols, traditions, and myths conceal rather than reveal about the power structures around us? The more we consider these possibilities, the more tangled they become. One theory inevitably leads to another, leaving us questioning the motivations of those who shape narratives from behind the curtain. Is the Atlantean knowledge they guard too dangerous to share, or too powerful to relinquish? Perhaps the elite few see this era of humanity as unfit to wield such power responsibly, repeating the fate of their legendary predecessors. But if that's the case, it opens another door. A door that leads straight to one of the most enigmatic institutions on Earth, the Vatican. What might be hidden within its sprawling archives, guarded not just by locked doors, but centuries of tradition? Could the secrets so many have sought for centuries, secrets that stretch from the Freemasons to the Illuminati and beyond, also lie waiting in the heart of religious power? The possibility adds yet another layer to the intrigue, and suggests that the mystery of Atlantis isn't simply about a lost city. It's about the delicate balance of knowledge, secrecy, and the truth we're all searching for. What secrets of Atlantis could be locked away in the Vatican's vast archives? It's a question that has fueled conspiracy theories for years. The Vatican, with its centuries-old reputation as a gatekeeper of ancient texts and relics, stands as an institution shrouded in mystery. For believers in the Atlantis myth, the Church might be holding more than religious manuscripts. It could be concealing evidence of a lost civilization whose advanced knowledge would rewrite our understanding of humanity's history. The idea alone sparks curiosity and suspicion. After all, the Vatican's archives remain one of the most secure and inaccessible collections of knowledge on the planet. The Vatican's fascination with preserving ancient texts is no secret. Its archives, established in the early 17th century, are said to hold more than 50 miles of shelving, housing manuscripts, letters, and other documents reaching back over 12 centuries. Access to these treasures is notoriously difficult. Scholars must navigate extensive protocols just to view even a selected portion of what's there. This secrecy has naturally led to speculation about what remains hidden. For Atlantis theorists, it's not hard to imagine that such a collection could include first-hand accounts, ancient maps, or even instructions for advanced technologies, artifacts allegedly salvaged or passed down from the world before it drowned. Some suggest the archive documents might reference events similar to Plato's Atlantis, accounts of a civilization whose fall aligns with descriptions from across cultures, like global flood myths or memories of a golden age wiped clean by natural disaster. Others take this further, claiming that the Vatican possesses materials directly related to Atlantis, protecting these secrets to maintain control over humanity's narrative. After all, if Atlantis did exist and had achieved technological or spiritual advancements beyond modern capabilities, acknowledging its history could create chaos, or worse, dismantle established systems of power. The idea isn't as outlandish as it might first sound, given the Vatican's complicated role in history. The Church has played a central part in shaping Western civilization's understanding of human origins and history. Its past actions reveal a tendency to guard information closely, particularly if it might challenge doctrinal beliefs or social stability. Atlantis, with its implications of technological mastery, and perhaps even a new understanding of our place in the universe, would undoubtedly pose such a challenge. For proponents of this theory, keeping Atlantis a myth serves as a critical piece of maintaining religious and political authority. The secrecy of the Vatican's archives only amplifies these suspicions. Few people ever gain entry, and even those permitted under strict guidelines cannot freely browse the collections. Requests must be highly specific, and even then, many materials remain entirely off limits. It's a system designed to guard its contents, even from well-respected scholars, leaving plenty of room for interpretations that the Church is protecting dangerous or transformative knowledge, not just religious documents. The Vatican's control over ancient knowledge is seen as a deliberate effort to suppress information that could destabilize the current global power structure, according to conspiracy theorists. One recurring theory focuses on the idea that the archives could hold blueprints or technical documents from Atlantis. If this civilization indeed harnessed sustainable energy sources or worked with materials and techniques lost to time, such information, if rediscovered, would represent a power shift of unimaginable proportions. Ancient technologies involving energy crystals, self-sufficient power grids, or advanced medicine could upend industries reliant on fossil fuels, pharmaceuticals, or even construction. The Vatican, with its historic ties to power, might have a vested interest in ensuring such disruptive elements remain hidden. If Atlantis was a civilization rich not just in technology, but also in wisdom, perhaps spiritual or cosmic in nature, its teachings could present an equally disruptive threat to religious institutions. A civilization predating biblical accounts, for example, rises as a theological dilemma. It would suggest alternate timelines or preceding revelations, casting doubt over dominant religious narratives. This is where speculation about suppression becomes particularly heated. Believers in the Atlantis-Vatican connection argue that tying humanity's origins to the citizens of a lost advanced civilization would undermine many foundational elements of modern religion. For an institution charged with safeguarding spiritual continuity, the stakes of such a revelation would be enormous. There's also the idea that protecting this knowledge isn't necessarily about greed or control, but caution. Some suggest the Vatican sees itself as a steward, safeguarding truths humanity isn't ready to face. After all, Plato wrote that Atlantis was destroyed because of moral corruption and arrogance. Could it be that the lessons the Atlanteans left behind are too dangerous to risk falling into the wrong hands? If their mastery of technology led to their own undoing, perhaps the Church considers it a duty to prevent history from repeating itself. Still, these suggestions often veer into broader conspiracy territory. To truly entertain the Vatican's active suppression of Atlantis-related knowledge is to also explore the motivations of modern power structures operating in tandem with the Church. For example, imagine the implications of Atlantean energy technology becoming public knowledge. It could destabilize global industries, particularly those reliant on finite resources. Modern leaders, whether in economic, religious, or political sectors, might align to suppress such disruptions in the name of stability or profit. The fear is that the discovery of such technologies would threaten industries built on fossil fuels, one theory speculates. Public access to these secrets, according to proponents of the theory, could also erode trust in leadership. If it turned out there had been deliberate suppression of such transformative knowledge, the backlash would be enormous. This kind of shift in public perception might remake not just industries, but the very frameworks of governance and belief under which society operates. From this perspective, keeping Atlantis firmly within the realm of myth might not be nefarious so much as pragmatic. Still, the Vatican's silence on such matters naturally does little to squash speculation. Curiously, it is this silence itself that makes the mystery so enduring. Instead of outright denial, the archive's inaccessibility leaves a vacuum for questions to grow. The more limited the information, the easier it becomes to imagine what could be lurking behind closed doors. In this way, the Vatican's opacity has fueled its mythology, allowing conspiracy theories about Atlantis and other forbidden knowledge to thrive across generations. The Church becomes, in many ways, an emblem of the unknown, a vault not just of history, but of potential revelation. This, of course, raises the stakes. Could an Atlantean resurgence, sparked by hidden evidence finally coming to light, fundamentally alter humanity's understanding of itself, whether through texts, artifacts, or some long-lost Atlantean map languishing in a forgotten corner of the archives? Any confirmation of Atlantis as more than myth would ripple across science, history, and theology. Even the faintest glimmer of truth could upend centuries of belief. But without access, everything remains in question, leaving the vault-like mystery of the archives intact. For now, all we have is speculation. The Vatican's undisclosed contents will likely remain a matter of intrigue for centuries to come, continually feeding theories about what lies hidden. Perhaps it is this restraint, deliberate or circumstantial, that keeps Atlantis and the possibility of its rediscovered legacy alive in the modern imagination. The thought that a single collection could hold the answers to mysteries of our ancient past is both thrilling and frustrating. It ensures that the story of Atlantis and the speculation tying it to the Vatican will endure, no matter how much or how little evidence we ever obtain. But sometimes, it's not what's said that keeps a mystery alive. It's what's left unsaid. Every locked door, every redacted text adds another layer to the story. And as long as those doors remain closed, the speculation will grow. Just the thought of what could be concealed there raises even more provocative possibilities. Could it be that history, as we know it, isn't the whole story? When the Vatican holds its silence, the space it creates is filled with theories, questions, and the occasional suspicion that what they're guarding might extend beyond religion or even human origins. Yet, this lingering silence sets the stage for another twist in the Atlantis saga. If the Vatican might hide Atlantean texts or relics, what other angles have been overlooked? What if Atlantis's secrets weren't of human origin at all? Could the mystery point to something not buried in archives but written in the stars? If the church is guarding one layer of Atlantis's legacy, could the rest lie in something far more cosmic? Theories involving extraterrestrial ties to Atlantis suggest the Vatican may not only hold Earth's secrets, but those of other worlds as well. With each step, the story grows stranger, taking Atlantis further into realms where history, myth, and the unexplainable collide. Could the Atlanteans have been visitors from beyond our planet? It's a theory that stretches the imagination, but for some, it explains what might otherwise seem impossible. How did a civilization so advanced in technology, engineering, and culture emerge and then vanish with barely a physical trace? The ancient aliens theory holds that Atlantis's secrets lie not in Earth's depths, but in the cosmos. It suggests that the Atlanteans were either descended from extraterrestrial beings or directly influenced by them, a connection that would explain their unprecedented advancements and perhaps even their downfall. This idea has roots in ancient stories that span the globe. Across cultures, there are myths of gods or beings who descended from the sky, often bringing knowledge or guiding humanity through pivotal moments. In the ancient aliens theory, these entities are reinterpreted not as deities, but as extraterrestrials, advanced, intelligent beings with a presence on Earth. Proponents of this theory argue that the Atlanteans were a society shaped or even seeded by alien visitors. This would explain not only their astonishing technology, but the profound spiritual and scientific knowledge they are said to have possessed. Legends often point to technologies that seem to defy the limits of ancient human understanding. Consider stories of flying ships or vehicles capable of traveling great distances through air or space. These mythical crafts, sometimes described as moving on streams of energy, appear not only in Atlantis lore, but in other ancient accounts, such as the Vimanas of Indian texts. In these tales, flying machines were not just symbols of divine power, but working devices. Proponents of the Atlantis alien theory suggest these legends could be evidence of extraterrestrial technology passed down to the Atlanteans, or developed by them under alien guidance. Adding to this mystery are accounts of Atlantean energy crystals said to power the city and fuel its advanced systems. These crystals, according to believers, functioned as energy sources far beyond the scope of modern technology, channeling limitless power from the Earth itself, or even cosmic forces. The theory aligns with claims that extraterrestrials shared high-level energy harnessing methods with their human counterparts. Some conspiracy theorists propose that the Atlanteans' advanced technology included the ability to harness limitless energy, potentially through massive crystals, draws one source. This connection between alien technology and Atlantean energy capabilities raises questions about how much more they might have understood about the universe and its mechanics compared to modern humanity. But there are other elements in these theories that challenge the boundaries of the possible. Stories of interdimensional portals, gateways between different planes of existence, often surface when discussing Atlantis. The idea that the Atlanteans might have discovered a way to manipulate time, space, or dimensions through alien collaboration strikes some as absurd, but others see it as an explanation for why their civilization seems to have disappeared so completely. If such portals existed, could the Atlanteans have used them to leave Earth entirely? It's the kind of question that underpins the extraterrestrial interpretation of Atlantis, shifting the focus from our oceans to the stars. There are also physical remnants that believers tie to this theory. Structures like the pyramids of Giza or the intricately engineered sites of Pumapunku in Bolivia are sometimes linked to the knowledge the Atlanteans or their extraterrestrial allies might have shared. These sites exhibit architectural precision and techniques that even with today's technology are difficult to replicate. While mainstream science attributes these structures to the ingenuity of ancient human civilizations, the ancient aliens' perspective maintains that they reveal a connection to Atlantean and cosmic influence. These monumental works are treated as clues, evidence that pieces of Atlantean knowledge may have survived even after the city itself did not. Such speculation feeds into an even larger idea that the downfall of Atlantis wasn't simply a natural disaster, but somehow tied to its otherworldly origins. Some suggest that the same alien technology that elevated Atlantis might have become its undoing. Did the Atlanteans overreach, attempting to wield powers they couldn't fully control? This would echo Plato's narrative of a civilization brought down by hubris, not just moral corruption but technological ambition that spiraled beyond their capacity to manage. If extraterrestrials did play a role, could they have intervened to destroy a society they no longer trusted, or simply abandoned it to self-destruct? More troublingly, some versions of the theory propose that the Atlanteans were never meant to share their knowledge with the greater human population. These interpretations portray Atlantis as a kind of experimental colony, developed or overseen by extraterrestrial beings. Its destruction becomes less an accident of nature and more a deliberate decision, intended to prevent Atlantean advancements from spreading or destabilizing the planet's development. At the heart of these ideas lies a provocative question. What if the knowledge of Atlantis and the aliens who influenced it hasn't been entirely lost? Instead, some believe remnants of this cosmic connection remain concealed or suppressed. The suppression argument, often tied to the broader conspiracy of hidden knowledge, suggests that understanding Atlantean technology, if rooted in extraterrestrial science, would upend entire systems of power. Rediscovering these secrets could challenge the boundaries of modern industries, science, and even religion. The claim that powerful entities maintain control by suppressing knowledge is central to this theory, driving the belief that the Atlantean legacy was buried not only to protect its secrets, but to maintain current structures of authority. The possibility of extraterrestrial ties to Atlantis also raises philosophical questions that reach far beyond artifacts or ruins. If Atlanteans were shaped by alien influence, what does that say about humanity itself? Are we the heirs of a terrestrial species? Or do our origins extend into the stars? Some propose that an alien connection to Atlantis might point to Earth as part of a larger cosmic network, its development monitored or even guided by otherworldly beings. Seen through this lens, Atlantis wasn't just a city, but a chapter in a much broader story, one with interstellar implications. The extraterrestrial theory doesn't just expand the mystery of Atlantis, it redefines it. It's no longer just about a lost civilization, but about the role of Earth in a larger, possibly cosmic system. What if the story of Atlantis is a missing link between humanity's understanding of its past and the broader universe? By exploring these possibilities, the mystery of Atlantis connects to something far larger, linking human imagination with questions about the very nature of existence. What keeps this theory alive is its capacity to bridge the gaps between myth, history, and speculation. Whether seen as a metaphor for human ambition or a literal account of extraterrestrial contact, Atlantis represents a kind of meeting point between the possible and the impossible. Its story challenges us to think not only about the past, but about forces greater than ourselves. Forces that may have shaped not just one lost city, but the world as we know it. Could the downfall of Atlantis have been tied to its otherworldly origins? For those who embrace the ancient aliens theory, the answer is a cosmic yes. The idea of extraterrestrial involvement adds a whole new dimension to the legend, one that expands its scope from the depths of the ocean to the farthest reaches of space. This perspective suggests the Atlanteans were either gifted or burdened with knowledge beyond their time, and their rise and fall might hold lessons not just for us, but for humanity's place in the universe. What if the secrets of Atlantis are waiting not beneath the waves, but among the stars? If nothing else, the extraterrestrial theory reminds us just how vast the possibilities are. In questioning Atlantis' origins, we're encouraged to question our own. The story doesn't just invite us to imagine the impossible, it challenges us to wonder how much of it might already be true, hidden in the spaces we have yet to explore. And sometimes, the most fascinating answers aren't buried under the earth, they're written in the sky. What if Atlantis wasn't just a city, but part of something much bigger, a global network of advanced civilizations? It's an idea that pushes the boundaries of what we think we know about ancient history. To imagine such a network is to question much of the timeline we've been taught. A timeline that assumes advanced knowledge and technology didn't emerge until relatively recently. But scattered around the world are hints that suggest a different story, one where Atlantis might not have been alone. Instead, it could have been part of a golden age of interconnected civilizations, sharing knowledge that was far ahead of its time. Consider Göbekli Tepe, an archaeological site in Turkey that has challenged our understanding of human development. Constructed over 11,000 years ago, it features massive stone pillars weighing several tons, arranged in intricate formations. What makes it unusual is not just its age, but its sophistication. It predates the invention of writing, agriculture, and the wheel, yet its builders clearly understood engineering principles that seem advanced for their time. The search for Atlantis is often linked to the exploration of ancient sites like Göbekli Tepe, which challenges the conventional timeline of human advancement. For many, Göbekli Tepe represents a forgotten chapter of human history, possibly even a remnant of the same advanced culture that Atlantis belonged to. This idea takes on new weight when you look at the striking similarities among ancient structures worldwide. The pyramids of Egypt, the megalithic temples of Malta, the mysterious ruins of Pumapunku in Bolivia. All of these sites contain elements that suggest an understanding of engineering beyond what should have been possible at the time they were built. What's even more intriguing is that these structures often share recurring patterns: extraordinary precision, alignment with celestial bodies, and the use of massive stone blocks, sometimes transported over long distances. Could it be that these far-flung sites weren't isolated developments, but part of a shared legacy, fragments of a once thriving global network? flood myths might hold the key to understanding why so little remains of this supposed network. Nearly every ancient culture carries a story of a great flood, one that wiped out a civilization and remade the world in its wake. The story of Noah's Ark in the Bible, the Sumerian tale of Utnapishtim, and the devastating floods described in Hindu epics all share striking parallels. These are tales of survival, but they also hint at something else: the loss of a thriving, advanced world that came before. Flood myths, present in nearly every culture, serve as a crucial piece of evidence supporting the idea of a global prehistoric civilization and a cataclysmic event. Could such an event have erased not just Atlantis, but an entire network of interconnected societies, leaving only scattered remnants for modern archaeologists to puzzle over? The scale of destruction caused by such a global cataclysm might explain why evidence of an advanced prehistoric culture is so hard to find. Over thousands of years, rising sea levels, tectonic shifts, and other geological changes could have submerged or destroyed countless structures. What remains are often fragments, megalithic ruins, whose true origins may never be fully uncovered. According to the theory, this is why the search for Atlantis often feels incomplete. Instead of finding a single city, we seem to encounter echoes of a larger, interconnected world scattered across continents. These echoes include myths of a golden age or lost continent, which appear in different forms across cultures. Plato's Atlantis is only one example of this kind of story. The Tamil tradition speaks of Kumari Kandam, a sunken landmass in the Indian Ocean believed to have been lost to rising seas. In the Pacific, Polynesian legends tell of Hawaii, a homeland thought to have vanished beneath the waves. In South America, the story of El Dorado describes not a city, but a civilization of immense wealth and sophistication. The recurring theme is clear. Long ago, there existed advanced societies whose contributions to human history were lost in a wave of destruction. What ties these myths together is the idea that knowledge itself was erased. The idea of a global cataclysm erasing advanced human knowledge is a key element in the theory of a worldwide prehistoric culture. Each of these societies may have been part of a shared lineage, passing down technological and spiritual insights until a catastrophic event disrupted their continuity. In this view, Atlantis wasn't unique, but part of a larger network of civilizations, all of which experienced the same fate. The theory gains further support when examining how these sites align with each other. Some researchers point to the almost uncanny precision of ancient maps, such as the Piri Reis map, which depicts coastlines not known to early explorers. Others note alignments between ancient megalithic sites that suggest an understanding of global geography far more advanced than we've attributed to early humans. These clues lead to a tantalizing possibility that this network may have had systems of communication and exploration that linked cultures separated by vast oceans. If such a network did exist, rediscovering its remnants would be one of the most significant breakthroughs in archaeology and human history. It would require rethinking everything from when cities first developed to how ancient societies interacted. It might even show us that many of the technologies and techniques we credit to modern innovation actually have deeper prehistoric roots. What if Atlantis and other civilizations in its network had methods of agriculture, energy production, or architecture that we're only now beginning to rediscover? Of course, the question remains: what caused this global cataclysm? Some suggest natural disasters like massive flooding triggered by melting ice caps at the end of the last ice age. Others point to more dramatic possibilities like asteroid impacts, shifting tectonic plates, or even volcanic eruptions on a scale we've never witnessed. While none of these scenarios fully explain the specific details of Atlantis' fall, they all point to a shared human experience of destruction, one that might be reflected in the flood myths and ancient structures left behind. But this theory isn't just about disaster, it's also about resilience and memory. The idea of a global network implies that the societies of this golden age were connected not just by trade or exploration, but by ideas, their understanding of the world, their ability to build in harmony with their environments, and their pursuit of knowledge all suggest an advanced way of thinking. Even if much of it was lost, small pieces of that knowledge may have survived, carried forward by the myths and monuments they left behind. That idea challenges us to rethink the trajectory of human advancement. Rather than a slow, linear climb from primitive beginnings, perhaps history is more cyclical. Civilizations rise, achieve incredible things, and then fall, leaving only traces for those who come after. If Atlantis were just one node in a wider network, it means humanity's story may be far older and more complex than the history books suggest. The thought leads to one final question. Could rediscovering this network bring about another golden age? If we were to uncover what these civilizations knew about energy, the cosmos, or even each other, what might that do to our understanding of ourselves today? Could it rewrite history, or perhaps even shape the future? For now, it remains a mystery, but one thing is certain. The idea of Atlantis isn't just about a city, it's about a legacy of human potential, scattered across the earth, waiting to be pieced together. And yet, finding these pieces might not only reshape what we know, but also reveal the forces striving to control that knowledge. If Atlantis and its global network truly hold the keys to a forgotten chapter of humanity, what does that mean for the societies trying to uncover or suppress it today? It's a question that lingers, hinting at battles not just for memory, but for the power such memory might unlock. Could modern elites be working to revive the lost civilization of Atlantis for their own gain? It's a bold question, but one that reflects a growing belief among certain conspiracy theorists. They argue that Atlantis was never really forgotten, at least not by those in power. Instead, its existence and advanced knowledge have been deliberately hidden, guarded by the elites who stand to benefit the most from keeping its secrets. Far from being a lost memory of history, Atlantis might hold the potential to rewrite not only the past, but the future of humanity. And some suggest this potential is what makes it such a closely guarded mystery. The theory begins with a simple but unnerving premise: that modern elites, whether tied to governments, corporations, or clandestine organizations, are either descendants of Atlanteans or are actively working to control what remains of Atlantean knowledge. According to this narrative, the knowledge encapsulated by Atlantis wasn't entirely lost when the city sank. Fragments survived, advanced technology, energy systems, even philosophies, and were passed down through carefully protected channels. These elites, it is said, have inherited not just this information, but the responsibility of deciding who gets access to it and when. This belief ties directly to the idea of the New World Order, a term that's as elusive as it is provocative. The New World Order, as theorists explain it, is an overarching agenda to consolidate global power into the hands of an elite few. If Atlantis was a hub of advanced knowledge, then controlling its secrets could provide immense leverage in shaping that agenda. What if the wisdom of Atlantis, knowledge of free energy, advanced engineering, or unparalleled social systems, was the key to creating a utopia? Or alternately, what if that knowledge could be manipulated to create an unshakable system of control, one where these elites maintain their dominance indefinitely? The idea that modern elites could be descendants of Atlanteans adds an extra layer to this story. Supporters of this theory often describe Atlantis not just as a technologically advanced civilization, but as a society that cultivated a kind of biological or intellectual superiority. Atlanteans, according to some accounts, were larger, stronger, and smarter than the average humans of their time, their advancements reflecting both their environment and their genetic advantages. These traits, preserved over millennia, are said to surface in the ruling classes of today. It's a claim that's difficult to prove, but equally difficult to dismiss outright, given the many myths weaving superiority into the Atlantis legacy. But why would this Atlantean lineage pursue a global objective today? Theories suggest that revealing the full truth about Atlantis could destabilize current power structures. Imagine if Atlantean technology, like a sustainable energy source, was suddenly made public knowledge. One theory claims the discovery of Atlantean technology, such as a sustainable energy source, could collapse industries built on fossil fuels. Fossil fuels form the backbone of modern economies, powering industries, transportation, and infrastructure. If a clean, unlimited energy source emerged, a resource that completely circumvented oil, coal, or gas, it could change everything. The industries relying on these systems would become obsolete, potentially upending the world order. That level of disruption is what these elites are said to fear most, and why knowledge of Atlantis remains suppressed. But here's where the theories take an even more pointed turn. Some believe these elites aren't just suppressing this knowledge, they're trying to unlock it for themselves. The idea is that they want to use Atlantis' wisdom to establish not a balanced world, but a new global order under their control. If Atlantean knowledge represents the pinnacle of human achievement, accessing it could enable them to build cities, military technologies, and communication systems far beyond current possibilities. In this view, the New World Order isn't just an abstract political shift. It's a project to replicate Atlantis and once again rise to the heights of its civilization, this time in the service of a chosen few. To supporters of this theory, one fear looms larger than all others: that those chosen few will use such power not to uplift humanity, but to deepen control and maintain the supremacy of elites. It is, after all, the classic conundrum of power. If you control the knowledge and resources to shape the world, how do you ensure that such control is wielded responsibly? For conspiracy theorists, the worry isn't just about the knowledge itself. It's about who decides how it's used. The theory that elites are actively working to revive Atlantis shares noticeable parallels with other speculative ideas we've encountered in earlier discussions, like those surrounding the Vatican. Much like the suggestion that the Vatican suppresses Atlantis-related documents to preserve authority, the New World Order theory hinges on the belief that uncovering the ruins of Atlantis would force a drastic rethinking of history. But instead of hiding the past, theorists argue the elites might be looking to retell it, crafting a version of events that benefits their narrative. By controlling the revelation of Atlantean knowledge, they could spin its rediscovery as a justification for sweeping changes to political structures, environmental policies, and societal hierarchies. Still, not everyone interpreting these ideas sees the pursuit of Atlantis's secrets as inherently malicious. There's another school of thought that suggests some elite groups might have altruistic intentions. What if, rather than hoarding knowledge for control, they aim to carefully release it when humanity is ready? Plato's tale of Atlantis suggests that the city's downfall came from hubris, from moral and spiritual corruption that surpassed their technological advancements. Some believe the lesson of Atlantis is ultimately about responsibility. Could it be that modern elites see it the same way? If true, it might not be about control, but about timing. Releasing these secrets in a way that avoids repeating Atlantis's tragic fall. But timing is subjective, and until evidence of Atlantis or its legacy makes its way into public hands, the uncertainty continues to fuel speculation. Theories about the New World Order make Atlantis feel less like a story and more like a chessboard. A place where powerful forces strategize their next moves. And this suspicion shapes how people interpret even unrelated events, from massive archaeological discoveries to technological breakthroughs. The idea that Atlantis could be used against us rather than for us transforms these theories into a battleground of fear and hope. So who truly benefits from reviving Atlantis, and at what cost? If the choices being made today are tied back to these ancient secrets, what does that mean for the rest of humanity? Speculating on Atlantis's legacy highlights deep anxieties about who controls knowledge and resources in the modern world. It also raises moral questions about how power should be used, or if it should be used at all. Is it better to leave Atlantis as a cautionary tale, a metaphor for human ambition? Or can it be rediscovered and repurposed without bringing about its inevitable downfall once again? The mystery, then, isn't just about Atlantis itself. It's about the choices civilizations face when they hold truths too big to share easily. Atlantis, whether it existed or not, offers a framework for understanding humanity's repeated patterns of creation, destruction, and reinvention. The elites speculated to control its secrets represent the potential and peril of that cycle, standing at the crossroads of possibility. The question we're left with is not just whether Atlantis should be revived, but whether humankind has evolved enough to handle the consequences of its return. Perhaps that's why the legend of Atlantis continues to captivate the world. It's not just a question of where the city is, or whether it existed at all. It's a reminder of the invisible tug-of-war between power and secrecy, between knowledge and suppression. These battles don't just define the past, they shape the future, suggesting that the story of Atlantis is far from over. Instead, it lingers, just like the city itself, submerged deeply, waiting for the right moment to resurface. The question is, when it does, will it be for the better or for the worse? And who will decide? The story of Atlantis isn't just about a city swallowed by the sea. It's about the collision of knowledge, power, and ambition. Through myths and theories, it reflects both humanity's highest aspirations and its greatest vulnerabilities. Atlantis serves as a powerful symbol in our collective imagination, a reminder of the potential within us and the dangers of losing our way. What if the answers aren't as distant as we think, hidden not beneath the waves, but within the stories we carry? Atlantis challenges us to question the limits of what we know and dream of what still waits to be uncovered.